Good evening, Mukesh. It's a pleasure and an honor to chat with you. Incidentally, Mukesh has been one of the strong supporters of nasscom, and many years ago, when Myntra was still in the stage of becoming one of the iconic startups, he spared his time to come and talk to nasscom startup founders. Glad to have you once again, Mukesh. I know GCCs are really transitioning, and in GCC 1.0, it was really an idea in terms of just creating the idea that software can be built or technology can be built in India. And I think over the years it moved to GCC 2.0, where clearly they started to become more strategic to companies. And over the last few years, you've seen GCC has transitioned to 3.0, where the Indian global capability centers are becoming centers for innovation. And I think there can be many examples, like GE Healthcare built its portable ultrasound here, or for that matter, Honeywell has done. So I think there is a significant strategic place to which GCC has evolved today. And I thought in this discussion, we'll use your experience and knowledge to really understand what is the next phase where GCC is going to go into. And to really kick that off, I know you have sort of done two very successful startups. You really build products which are based in terms of customer insights. And now some of the capability in GCCs is really evolved to that, to build products for global markets. It is not necessarily entrepreneurship, but people can also take an entrepreneur role within their organization to suggest. So as a very successful entrepreneur, what are some of 2 or 3 tips which you would give the audience here in terms of what do they need to do to think in terms of building leading edge, futuristic products?
No, thanks, KK. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And great to see, I think, evolution of GCCs where we are starting to think about building end consumer products. I think there is, never been a dearth of talent in India that we have seen, with the IT services industry, with just rise of entrepreneurship in India over the last 15 years, and of course, in the GCCs. I think the key thing, and you kind of briefly mentioned insights. I'm pretty sure inside the GCCs, people are fully capable because you're already, from the back end side, delivering a lot of value. 2, I think, go up on the value chain, and to be able to innovate products, some way you need to enable direct access to consumer, because through that observation, the insights you are able to develop, I feel innovation usually is the intersection of 2 things. You can come at it from technology angle where you know what is capable, and a lot of that can be done sitting out of India, but the customer context is also very important. And that, I think, how does different GCCs for their teams enable that access to, first-hand feel? Like a lot of, whether it's entrepreneurs or product managers, one of the key things they are able to arrive at this, good pulse of where the market is at. Some of the early things that are starting to happen. Like if I just go back to my example of Cult, in 2016, we could see a lot of signs that people are talking about fitness, but there was just no good place for them to go. There was such a huge barrier to walk into a traditional gym with all these machines, etc. So that, we only understood after we talked to 400 or 500, customers, that all these people are saying they're interested in fitness, they want to do something, but still they are not doing. It was not an affordability issue. So I think that, just much deeper, regular customer context is going to be huge enabler. But I also believe it's inevitable. I think, India is starting, obviously, become very important in many different ways. We have seen so many great consumer companies come up. So we have that talent also in the country where people are able to start to build products which are very comparable, globally competitive. Till date, Flipkart has a bigger market share than Amazon in the, like a food delivery space, or in mobility, Ola is super competitive to Uber. So I think the country has that capability, and I think so GCCs can leverage that capability along with the consumer context to aim for building, that product which can win in the marketplace.
No, that's a great insight, which means it will really give many of the people in the audience to think in terms of what is it they need to create in the customer context. But more on what is being really hyped about now, which is really everybody talks about AI and so on. Now, what has been your experience in terms of products? Because the other day, I was talking to somebody, since you mentioned wellness, he's really in the space of helping individuals to really improve their nutritional way in which they eat. And it's very much a job which he does one-to-one. But the company, he gave it a name X.ai. So I asked this entrepreneur saying, hey, what is AI in this? Why are you putting AI? His very honest response was, sir, only if I put AI, I'll get some valuation. So is this a hype, or how would you suggest to some of the key GCC leaders here on what should they do to help their companies use AI in a more impactful manner, and how does it impact revenues?
So let me answer that by first maybe show of hands. How many people in the room use tools like GPT or Claude or Gemini on a daily basis? Yeah. So that's your answer right there. That's nearly 70% of the audience here. And I said on daily basis, right? So it's if something is not useful or effective, you will try it out of hype, etc. But after some point, you will stop. I think I've been, for last 1 year, I've started using, these tools regularly. And today I feel heavily dependent on, like, for example, I will not navigate without Google Maps. I feel if I do my work without leveraging power of, what GPT and other models enable, then somewhere I'm compromising. And this is not counting, what's coming with the audio now with GPT 4.0. It's quite powerful. And now I'm involved in building a company around AI. So we've been looking very deeply also. And what's going to come in next 6 to 9 months is absolutely mind-blowing. So it is for real. I think it is going to be a very deeply integral part of our lives. It's going to be very transformative. I think all the hype is true, but there's a nuance. Typically what happens is when this hype is there, people start to behave as if all that hype is going to materialize tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes, nothing happens, they'll wait one more day, and they'll say, there is nothing here. And then there is a disillusionment. So I think AI will probably go through that. I think hype is today, it's just expecting too much, which is not going to happen. In my opinion, it will take 1 to 2 years at least before, and there are a lot of issues also. Like GPT is now great for our individual use cases, but today it's not ready for enterprise. The reliability is not there, the quality of outcome is not there. Most of these solutions are not production ready at all. Some like very difficult issues that needs to be sorted out. So my take on Gen AI is take slightly longer term view. You start with the world view, then in 5 years, pretty much everything is going to be dramatically different. We may not be able to visualize how it is going to be different. So what you can do today is to start investing in building, capabilities around that, training your workforce, start incorporating everyday use cases, reading as much as you can, building great prototypes, and try to stay a few steps ahead of the curve. So as and when technology matures, new breakthroughs comes, you can be a much better position to take advantage of that. So yeah, that's kind of my overall take on where we are.
No, that's very interesting, which means I think people should get into the mindset of experimenting more, trying to do things which are small, which deliver some sense of thing that it's going to be successful. But what about the revenue part? Do you think the markets are ready to really start driving revenue based on some of this new hypes like AI?
Yeah, I think I don't think large-scale revenue opportunities there today is going to come in some time after I think a lot of technology issues are sorted out. Today, I think what companies are spending money, but small dollars for proof of concepts, pilots, because no one wants to be left behind, and they need to show internal progress, and that kind of work is happening. But I am not aware of any large-scale deployment of Gen AI solutions yet. But I think GCC have a, you are in some ways can be biggest internal user also. So I think I'm sure all capability centers have a question about how do I become more efficient, produce more, overall improve output per employee, reduce error rates and so on. I think that the tools are almost there, and most everyday use case, I think productivity can be sped up anywhere from 10 to 30%. So that way you can start building experience, seeing real value in near future, But this large-scale deployments, etc., I think we'll have to wait for 1 to 2 years.
Thank you. Which really brings me to another point. I know there's been so much of hype about LLMs and so on. And a lot of GCCs are starting to address customers who are very close to them, maybe in India or Asia Pacific. In India itself is becoming a big market where a lot of the GCCs are building specific products. And if I go back to that very famous, I would say almost an advice which Sam Altman gave when he came to India, saying that I think you guys shouldn't be attempting to build your own LLMs. So what do you think from a GCC perspective are the challenges in terms of adopting some of these new technologies? What is it they should take from the existing platforms which are available? What is it they should start building capability internally? What would be your advice on that?
I think that depends on where on the value spectrum you are playing. LLMs are, I mean, I'm sure most people in the room are aware. I mean, the right way to think about they're enabling platform like how operating systems were, or in the mobile era, how, your iOS or Android, or later on, the AWS and Google Cloud. So it is that capability. Having said that, there are, OpenAI, Gemini may be well known, but there are hundreds of models now at different scales, from few billion parameters to a few 100 billion parameters. Llama is open source, but the other open source, people are kind of reverse engineering and figuring out that some part of, despite Sam Altman's proclamation, some part is difficult, but it's also not that difficult also, because people are able to peel back the onion and understand what's behind. So like, technology costs are coming down, people are able to replicate. Now, as a GCC, where you're playing the spectrum is very important. It's the LLM are very data hungry. So even to deploy anything in production, what's known as RAG, retrieval, augmentation, and generation. So figuring, so you can build a lot of capabilities around that. Anybody who's going to be future user of LLM will need that. Fine tuning requires domain-specific knowledge. Even when you put these things in production, the output varies from day to day. So someone needs to test, evaluate, keep troubleshooting, things which are not working. So all these are areas. And then the higher level stuff, any current process, one can look at and see how much manual work is involved, which are the bottlenecks in the process where a lot of time gets wasted or people are waiting on each other. So a lot of that just can be speeded up significantly. It will again require some work, and depending upon the technology capabilities in-house, GCC can build in-house or work with some partner to organize it. So yeah, I think it really depends on which part of this whole LLM economy you are going to play in.
That's very interesting. So there is a huge set of opportunities. Maybe one insight from you can be, if I look back, you created a category of selling fashion clothes online, which was really a category creation. And then when you started looking at the health space, again, you didn't go to what was traditional models then. I think you are almost the one to create what I call as a phygital model, where you had a great digital application along with physical things to make it happen. And since you have been so engaged in doing that, can you sort of look ahead and say what could be the potential opportunities in the intersection of health, wellness, and business? Because I'm sure many of the GCCs will be interested in terms of either building health-driven products or probably even wellness products, because it is becoming a key way to engage with your folks.
Yeah, I think I genuinely believe that next 10 to 20 years, our health is going to be one of the largest opportunities. After, on a lighter note, after LLMs start doing all our work, then we'll be even more free time. But I actually, to be honest, I don't think that's the case, first of all. I think LLMs will mostly enhance and augment what we do. But health, why I'm saying is health is going to be a big opportunity, both from India point of view. I think, within India, people are starting to cross, certain income threshold. With income comes affluence. With affluence comes, desire to consume more things. You have tend to become more sedentary, consuming more content. You are eating more than probably what you need to, and so on. And then, as a result, now obesity is increasing in the country. Diabetes, we are called diabetes capital of the world. Nearly 100 million diabetic patients, and all these numbers are going to go up. And at some point, these people will look for solutions. Solutions for a lot of these things, not only medically oriented, but also from wellness point of view. People will start to wonder, like, what is the right food to eat? How do I make habit changes? At some point, they'll realize, mental health also plays a huge role. So I think all this will translate into a lot of solutions for our providers, whether people are building nutrition solutions or mental health solutions, or I think coming years, wearables, digitization of health will play a big role. And this digitization also will going to create huge opportunities in India. See, we have seen that anything which can be digitized can be remotely managed from India. We have done it many times over the last 30 years. I think health is also headed that way. We all know the health in US is a mess. It's 20% of US GDP now goes into health. It's great for maybe IT services industry overall, but for US economy, despite so much expenditure, they are not able to create quality health system. So a lot of those processes which are extremely expensive can be outsourced to India, can be significantly enhanced, leveraging AI plus human in the loop type of solutions. So I think from I mean things like radiology, etc. Think of the past, but little more sophisticated where a remote presence. If you enable digital tracking of health for millions of people, but who is going to do the tracking? Even if AI is analyzing the data, but someone needs to look at it, make sense of it, generate some insights, figure out the intervention, and so on. So I think India can probably play a bigger role in building those capability centers to power, hopefully, much better quality of health, which is not even available in West today.
No, taking on from what you said, I think it's a great opportunity to use this as a way to even engage better with employees. And how do you think that environment can change for DCCs? What should they start doing?
I was, at an event with Deloitte Consulting about a month ago, and the CEO told me, he has created a position called Chief Health Officer, and I thought, that's an excellent idea because investment in health has direct correlation with employee happiness, employee productivity. It's a small investment, but I think the return on that is a phenomenal. Retention rate goes up, and people generally, feel good about being in that environment. And I think companies have, I feel, huge opportunity to influence because we get really influenced by people around us. So if I see somebody around me who is more proactive about his or her health, then other people around me will also get encouraged. In Curefit, anyone who works, sooner, like there is a joke that if you join Curefit, you will lose, 10 kg in first, 6 months because you get inspired by looking at people around you. So I think companies can, inside GCC, I'm guessing for most people at a desk job, whole day you're sitting in front of a desk, looking at a screen, which is not great for you. So I think having an environment where people are encouraged to take, breaks regularly. You can change the food that's served in the office cafeteria. It's one small experiment we did at Curefit. We used to have on the kitchen counter both healthy snacks and unhealthy snacks. And when people come out of a stressful meeting, obviously you want to get an unhealthy one because it'll give you huge dopamine hit. So what we did is we didn't remove it, but we moved the unhealthy part of snacks to the back shelf and higher shelf. And after that change, the consumption went down by almost 70%. So these are, the whole theory of nudge, which I think, companies can do. But someone needs to take ownership of that. Who is going to, if you have somebody, from HR team, somebody who really cares about employees' health, lot of small intervention available.
So all of us have a good tip saying whenever you're tempted by unhealthy snacks, keep it on the topmost shelf, which you can't even reach.
Yeah, at least put some effort, so that.
I know we've got a lot of insights. I'd like to now turn it over to the audience in terms of your questions. Just raise your hand and somebody will carry a mic to you, and please stand up, state your name, and shoot your question. I know the first question is always difficult. I was almost wanting to say that the first question, okay, now I won't give the offer. I was supposed to say the first person will have a 1-month free subscription to Cure.
Yeah, why not?
Good. Can someone pass a mic to?
Yeah, hi. This is Umesh Chazed. So Mukesh, I just wanted to say that, whatever I just heard about how do you, get the fitness angle along with the core business that you're doing. So, we just kind of thought I would mention it here. So, during the COVID, so I've always been in fitness and, nutrition and all of that. So during COVID, I started a hobby startup called Plantigo. It is a plant-based protein, kind of product company. And so that has become the secondary ring of our organization. And we are using that, to basically promote all that you had said. So I just thought, I kind of identify with it and I'll just mention it.
Not able to hear you very clearly. Can you repeat the question if you understood the question?
So there
In
was...
terms of plant-based proteins, what was your question? Sorry, I also didn't.
Okay. So there was no question. It was just sharing. Right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks for sharing. But it's great that you're building this plant-based protein. I think it's yeah. I mean, a lot of people's diet don't have adequate protein. So I think that's a big requirement and opportunity. Brands like Muscle Blaze have done great job, but it's a way. I think plant-based proteins have their own role to play. So good to see that you're doing something.
Can someone pass a mic to Chetan?
Thank you. So Mukesh, the question is, I'm Chetan Garg. I used to be with All Street Insurance. You did Myntra, which was in the lifestyle business. You then went to Curefit. You then went to Tata Digital. First question is, how do you identify a gap in the market, either a white space or an opportunity, whether it's Myntra or Curefit? And then how do you take it to success? Because while people identify gaps, taking it to success is a very different ballgame. So can you share some insights about your journeys?
Yeah, I think, and this is more retrospective thinking, because honestly, when I was starting Myntra, etc., I did not know that much to be able to. I think there was more instinct at that time. But looking back, I think, see, when you look at technology shift starts to happen, then it's very difficult to see what is going to happen short term. But sometimes it's not that hard to see what is going to happen long term. So, for example, when internet came, people who thought long and hard about 10 years from now how important internet is going to be, or same thing mobile phone, they had a much better sense than people who thought this very short term. So I think that's now my mental model. With the AI, I'm doing something in the AI space. I'm looking at taking a 10-year view, and I'm very deeply convinced, 10 years from now, AI is going to be super important. Then next question, what do you do now? So I think the here and now question is very hard. So what I do, my process is just commit, and then what I call increase your contact area with the domain. So for example, in case of AI, it will translate into just learn as much as you can, talk to as many customers. I mentioned for Curefit, we talked to almost 500 customers in first 6 months. And then, brain automatically starts to pattern match. You start to see where the gaps are, what people are saying, what is the real pain point, and which pain point is solvable, while which is not solvable, and so on. And that's where a little bit of, letting your entrepreneurial instinct and the product instinct take over. And once you have, it still requires some conviction. At some point, a lot of startups, what they do is they're very good in jugaad, but they keep going from one jugaad to other without really committing to something deeply. So after you have got this contact area, you absorb a lot of data points, then somewhere you need to make a choice. And it is going to be more belief, like you have a long-term belief in something that's going to happen, and then you are among various paths possible. You're validated by consumer insights, so you're not totally flying blind, but still a judgment call at that point, maybe 50-50. And then you try to out-execute everyone. So I think for both Myntra and Curefit, I think so happened that I think it took us 3-4 years in both places to build a product that I think in the end was highly differentiated compared to many other players, because we stay focused on one thing. And we set the goal that we are going to build the best possible product, both time believing in Myntra, we believe e-commerce is going to be big in the country. Similarly, at Curefit, when I started, we believe health interest will just keep going up. So those beliefs, which are hopefully right, then makes it easy for you to commit to something, then out-execute other people.
Anybody else?
Let me ask a follow-on question, if that's
Yes.
okay. Have you had any failures, and how have you dealt with those?
Yeah, lots. I mean, honestly, I feel like if I count, I feel sometimes I've only had failures. So many different ways to answer. So before Myntra, in '99, when I was 23-year-old, I tried to start a company in Bay Area. And I was so clueless. I just bounced around for 6 months. It didn't go anywhere. So we shut it down, and then I joined a startup in Bay Area. And I don't know if it's my judgment or my capabilities, but pretty much every startup I worked for, 99 till 2007, most of them died, except one which had a moderate success. Then I moved back to India and started Myntra, and then nothing happens for 4 years. In first 4 years, we pivoted 3 times. So and by 2011, I was 36-year-old. I was working for last 14 years. I had nothing to show for my career. I went to IIT, studied computer science, and I was like now in my mid 30s, and I don't know, pretty much everyone who was my peer is doing really well in life. So, and I mean that was still 2011. Finally, Myntra took off, and so on. Again, in Curefit, we were very ambitious on day one. We said we are going to solve healthy lifestyle across all aspects. So build, solve for fitness, food, mental health, primary care, and we studied all those things. But except fitness, everything has some issue. Food had a unit economics issue. Mental health has a market size issue. Primary care is just very difficult. And then pandemic happens and we have to shut down pretty much everything else except fitness, where we double down. So yeah, I think the entrepreneurship journey and failure just go hand in hand. I think it's a critical requirement, that the quote which says, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm, something like that. So I mean, plenty of failures.
Hi, this is Kanagaraj from Continental. You talked about how to identify gaps and problem statement and so on. In innovation, the other critical part is always convincing the stakeholders at early part of the idea and its solutions. Any tips on that?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing clearly. Do you got the question?
You said in terms of conventional stakeholders, how do you get them?
How to convince the stakeholders?
Convince stakeholders.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the early part of the idea and solutions of it.
See, I really believe that stakeholders are the easier part. Convincing yourself is the harder part. And what I mean by that is, let's say I believe an idea and go and pitch to KK and he's not interested. And I go back home and drop that idea. That means I really do have no conviction about that. I'll give you one example actually. So this was, my first job was Deloitte Consulting, and I was working on a project. I was the junior most business analyst. And we were working on problems, a large project, 150 people. At some point, I had some hunch about a different approach. We were already vested in one approach, but I felt this alternate approach can work better. So I went to my manager, and he basically dismissed it. Yeah, it's not going to work and all that. But I thought it will really work. So I spent next 4 weekends, every Saturday morning I'll go to office, work Saturday, Sunday, and I put together like very comprehensive 20-page thesis document. And I went back to him and I said, can you just go through this and tell me why it will not work? So he read it, he was like, okay, this is interesting. Then he took it to his boss. And then after 2 weeks, they changed the whole process. So I think it was more like if you are convinced, you keep putting effort. Like if I go back to KK 5 times with better answer, then he will give me an audience. But most people, so I think once you are convinced and willing to put in effort, I think stakeholders come around.
Thank you.
But I know we are really running out of time, and it's been fascinating insights from Mukesh. But what I really take back from the session is that I think while we've evolved and really got a seat in the table with GCC 3.0, where innovation is happening, I think it's important now to start thinking in terms of an ambition of GCC 4.0, where you're really creating categories like him. Myntra was a category creation, Curefit was a category creation. And I think that opportunities exist for many of the GCCs here. Partly because I think in the next decade, 60% of the world's population is going to be in Asia Pacific. And like Mukesh said, if you're listening to customers, understanding what their problem is, and really using technology as a lever to solve the problem, I think we can move from 3.0 to 4.0, where no more GCCs will be offshore centers. They'll really be the vehicles of creating categories for all your enterprises. And Mukesh, thanks so much for the wonderful insights. Once again, great to have you
Thank you,
here.
everyone. Thank you. Thanks, KK.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASScom YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.